What's up, guys? Blake here. Welcome back to the Raw Food Lifestyle Podcast. I have another amazing guest for you guys today. We have Stacey Heiny on the show. She is a businesswoman. She is a podcaster and plant-based for 16 years. Today, I have the delight of speaking with her. We're going to pick her brain, learn all about her journey up until now. So first and foremost, Stacey, thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome. And how are you today?
Hey Blake, so good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to share a little bit more about my journey and also just have an awesome conversation with you.
Yes, exactly. And I've been so excited to have this conversation because you and I met at the Texas Fruit Festival. So big shout out to those guys. And I actually met you when you were teaching yoga at the Texas Fruit Festival. And you were like, oh, it's going to be easy. It's not going to make you guys sweat. And here I am inside plank just dripping with sweat. And no,
I'm so
just
sorry.
it was no. It was an amazing session. I needed that, and my body felt so good after it. And the way that you led the class, as a yoga instructor myself, it reminded me of when I used to go to studios more often and take yoga from some of like my favorite teachers. Because now I just kind of have a practice, like kind of just in my apartment, to be honest with you. But that was so cool to meet you and then just kind of hang out here and there at the Texas Fruit Festival. But to start out, like, what got you into the plant based lifestyle?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to actually rewind a little bit farther than that. You mentioned you came to my yoga class. I have been a mind body practitioner for 17 or 18 years now, and used to own a Pilates studio, yoga, and bar. And that is actually where my whole journey to wellness began. It was 20 years ago when I took a Pilates DVD and popped it into the TV and did an as seen on TV DVD, a Pilates DVD. And it was that mind body connection moment where I started to really drop into my body and understand how I felt. So when I slowed down enough to get into my breath, when I, fed myself better foods, I would have a better practice. And that's where it all started. Then a few years later, I found a book called The Kind Diet. That was by Alicia Silverstone. And around that time, also, I had seen a documentary called Fast Food Nation that had Avril Lavigne in it. A lot of people don't know about that one, but it was kind of, just a kind of scrappy documentary, but it showed the behind the scenes of how food gets onto our plate and specifically in the fast food world, and the awful situations with concentrated animal farming, and then also how they end the animal's life. That's what they showed at the end of that movie, and I was completely like, what in the world? I had for so long, for half my life, been living in the dark of how food got onto my plate and the awful, awful situation that the animals are in. So my journey with plant-based living it started with the animals, but then it journeyed more into the earth. And now it's also mostly about health. And that catapulted me into becoming a holistic nutritionist and a plant-based coach. And like I said, mind body practitioner, expanded all through the years with that. And I guess, really just essentially a healer because I've been on my own journey of healing throughout this entire process. And everything that I learned from my own personal transformation are things that I share with my clients to help them better their life.
Wow. Okay, so that's an amazing story, and that's very similar to my story as well. That I started in the holistic wellness space, personal training, and that led to yoga, and then that I guess my journey just naturally unfolded, kind of like how yours did. But I was never like a studio owner or anything like that. I mean, that's so cool. Can you tell us a little bit more how that was for you to be owning yoga studios and to be balancing all of that? I just huge respect on that because I know it must have been a lot of work.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you mentioned at the beginning of this that I am a business woman, and I am. I am a serial entrepreneur. I work in the clean beauty space. I've done that for 10 years. And I did become a studio owner kind of just by default. I was a really passionate instructor here in central Indiana at this Pilates studio that I was teaching at for several years. And the owner moved to California and asked if I wanted to purchase the studio. And I was only managing the studio at that time. I had no business experience. All again, I knew is that I was a passionate person about helping people with their health. And I was like, hey, might as well just see how this goes. So yeah, I purchased the studio. We had many Pilates reformers, 5 Pilates reformers, and then I expanded into another room and added a bar, got certified in bar yoga, bar hit classes. And oh my gosh, I learned so much in that 5.5 years of ownership, so much about how to manage people. I had 12 instructors, which was so I didn't, I didn't know what I was doing, quite honestly, but I was learning as I was going. I moved to a different location, which was in like an open air strip mall. We built that out, and it was really cool to put my own touch on the studio. And we had so many people come through that space, and it was a huge piece of their healing journey and their path to truth, which is, I believe, ultimate wellness. And when people can find that there is a higher way to live, when they really do tap into the mind body connection, they again slow down, they get connected to their breath, they get stronger, they see the physical transformation, they feel the spiritual transformation, even it just helps to elevate everything in their life, including all the people that they're surrounded by. It's like a ripple effect, and it just creates this beautiful, awesome thing. So I was really, really thankful to be a space to have a space that people could come to transform their lives, and also to be a space that was an awesome community, that held an awesome community of like-minded individuals. So essentially, through the journey with the business, I started to get burnt out, truthfully. I was trying to not only be the person that cleaned the studio and, that had to show up if people couldn't teach, and also was teaching myself several hours per week, but also I was trying to get pregnant and do life at the same time. And I really burnt out. And during that burnout phase, I happened to find another way to make income, which is what I also do now, which is through the clean beauty space. I started sharing that, and that just, folds right in, this Blake, like into holistic living. It's not just about what you eat and exercise. It's also about what you're putting on your body, and the types of water we're drinking. There's a lot of environmental toxins out there, and it really made sense for me to start sharing this. And I essentially started making more money doing that than I was being an owner. So I was like, well, I could actually just not have to do this anymore. I can actually not have to pay the monthly rent and be a brick and mortar owner. Even though I'm passionate about this, I'm going to sell. So I ended up selling. And it's funny because that was 8 years ago. And now I'm starting to teach again in person. I kept several clients that I've taught online since then. But when I was teaching you at Texas Fruit Festival, to be honest, that was one of my first times being back in a space where I was teaching like in the flesh. And it's amazing to do that, because I forgot about how much I absolutely love it when I don't have to pay the bills of being a brick and mortar owner, So I'm really glad to be back at that service work and feeling very aligned.
Okay, wow, that I just love that story, and I love how you followed your heart and you kept true to yourself throughout that process and your entrepreneurial spirit, and you were working hard juggling all these things, and then through the clean beauty, you found a way to even expand further. And then that led to not just your career, but it seems like your life blossoming even more towards, I guess, where you are now. And all BS aside, I'm not trying to fluff your ego or anything like that, but I would not have been able to tell that was like one of your first classes back teaching in the flesh. Like, you gave me the impression of like a very like someone who has a full book of classes. Like I really
Oh,
like that
great.
class. It was like a bit of power mixed with a bit of like slower hatha stuff, but with a
Yeah.
lot of mindfulness and breathing in between. And so there's a couple things I want to touch on what you've talked about so far, but I'd like to first take a deeper dive on clean beauty. As a guy, I'm probably not so savvy on that stuff, but the more that I learn about this plant-based realm and especially natural hygiene, which I'm super passionate about, you learn that your skin is permeable, and the
Yeah.
air and the water and the stuff that you put on your body is, you might as well just be eating it. And I've heard people say that if you're going to use makeup or shampoo, that it should be like food grade basically. But just for
Yeah.
my own education and for the viewers as well, can you
Yeah.
like teach us a little bit more about clean beauty?
Definitely. And, I will say that I have gone through phases where, I mean, let's just be honest. I highlight my hair. Okay. That's not, that's not necessarily the most healthy thing to do. I own these things. I actually am at complete peace with it. This is just my journey. But I've gone through periods of time where I was like, I'm not highlighting my hair. I'm only using olive oil on my skin. And for my face, that actually didn't do very well. I was actually pretty dry on my skin, and like it didn't really absorb very well, and kind of got all over my clothes, and so you can definitely go down that full natural hygiene, completely raw, which is great. I mean, like I cheer every single person on that wants to do that. You can go down that path, but for the majority of people living in 2025, and in just this society these days, they are using things on their skin that are completely wrecking their health. And I was definitely one of those people using Bath and Body Works in every single flavor or every single scent as I grew up. I would have all the scents, all the things that all the colors, all the bath bombs, like the Hello Kitty toxic lipstick, all that stuff. Okay. And what I didn't know was that in the United States in particular, it is so unregulated in terms of the ingredients that go into our personal care. I mean, we are talking about hormone disruptors, cancer causing ingredients. These are all hidden inside of the ingredient list. And so for the listeners, I want the listeners to know that one of the first things that you want to look at on the back of the label of your personal care, even like your shampoo, your conditioner, stuff like that, is fragrance. Fragrance it's an umbrella term that can literally have 3,000 ingredients underneath that one word. And that is where a ton of the hormone disruptors lie. And as somebody who had problems getting pregnant, that is something that people need to know about. They need to stop slathering on the fragrance that makes them smell good. Yes, but that is where all the hormone disruptors lie. And like you said, Blake, our skin is permeable. It is our largest organ. And it's depending on the molecule size, these ingredients, these chemicals can get into our skin and wreak havoc on our hormones. It also can wreak havoc on men's hormones. We're talking about like sperm count and, fertility for men. This is really important to know. So, fragrance is it's a code word, okay, here in the US. So if people are buying something that says fragrance or eau de toilette or parfum on it, make sure that it has an asterisk by it and that it actually tells you what's inside. And hopefully it's just a list of different essential oils. So I actually went to DC and I lobbied. I've lobbied locally, and also lobbied, like I've gone to speak with House representatives and stuff like that as a collective, trying to just get better regulations so that people don't, I mean, so that things that are on the store shelf are actually safe and they're not going to cause cancer. They're not going to cause hormone disruption. That should be what it's like. But that's not what it is like here in the United States. In Europe, they have completely different regulation. And as I've journeyed through different brands with the clean beauty space, I now work with a European based brand because their standards are so different, just so incredibly different. And it's the same with food. Food in Europe, they don't allow these pesticides and things that are wreaking havoc on our gut in the food system, and they don't allow these ingredients in their personal care either. But the United States is like the Wild West. So, fragrance, definitely do a deep dive on the fragrance. Okay. That's the first thing. And then secondly, maybe look for things that are in glass bottles. That can be a good step in the right direction. Glass bottles are better because they're not leaching the plastics into the product. And if you are using a product that has plastic as the packaging, just make sure it's not like super flexible and that it's more of the hard plastic. That's another step that people can take. But if people have more questions like about ingredients in particular, I can definitely help identify because I've been doing this for so long. It's just so easy for me to look at a label and be like, it doesn't mean that even if it has a really long list of ingredients that it's bad. A lot of these ingredients can be like plant derived, but you're just like, oh wait, what does that mean? But you want to know what you're doing. You want to know what you're putting on your skin.
Okay, perfect. That was an amazing answer. And you guys reach out to Stacey. I'm going to put all of her links in the show notes below in the description box. And just real quick, Stacey, what are your links to YouTube and Instagram for somebody if they have any questions about those ingredient lists?
Yeah. So make sure that you just spell the Urban Pharmacy correctly. That's my brand. It's urban, like an herb, like plants. So HERBAN Pharmacy, Pharmacy, the Urban Pharmacy. So that is where you'll find me on YouTube, and you'll also find me on Instagram. I believe that plants heal. So we are living in the urban pharmacy world.
I love that brand as well. I think that's so cool. It's kind of like a play on words, but it speaks to you and how, you're one of the people like who actually cares about others. We introduce you as a businesswoman, but you're not doing this out of some sort of lust for money. You're doing this because you actually really care about people, and I sense that about you. I feel like I've always cared about my clients as well, maybe to a fault. I don't know. You
Yeah.
get you really want to
Yeah.
help these
You can
people.
get caught up in service. It's definitely a thing.
It's definitely a thing. So that it's so cool to have this conversation with you, because I feel like we're on the same page about so much. And I love how you take the holistic approach. You were talking earlier about the mind body connection, and then you were talking about, the clean beauty, being mindful of what goes on your skin and what goes into your products that you're using. And then it seems like those journeys were concurrently running with your plant-based journey, because you said in the beginning of your plant-based journey you were doing this more for the animals, and then it kind of transitioned more towards health as you have these multiple kind of concurrent storylines running in your life. So talk to us about how looking at a plant-based lifestyle from the lens of health and animals, and how that combines with things like Pilates or bar or yoga. Because my philosophy, everyone probably knows already who's listening, is that you can't do one or the other. You have to have both.
Right?
And hence that holistic lifestyle. But how has that evolved for you over time?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Holistic living can mean so many different things for people, but I teach different pillars because of my own personal journey. I believe that holistic living embodies body nourishment, belief system, honoring earth, mind body connection, and success environment. So all of this is a cohesive it's a cohesive journey that we're on, and people start at different entry points. And so for me it was Pilates, that mind body connection. Then it started going into the body nourishment and into honoring earth, taking care of our ecosystem and being more mindful about what I'm buying and all of that stuff, taking care of the planet through more plant-based living. Then I started optimizing my success environment, meaning who I'm surrounding myself with. Started going to these festivals, right? Making sure that I'm staying connected with people who are very like-minded. We're all on this journey to elevate our lives. We want to not only elevate our lives for ourselves, but it's that ripple effect. The more that we can refine, the more that we can become better versions of ourselves, creates a better world. And then also belief system, which is that last pillar. Belief system doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual or religious. It can be, but gosh, we need to tap into our own mindset. We need to tap into our own inner abundance. That's like the yoga class that I taught. I mean, I had you guys writing down, right? Like mindset is a huge piece of becoming your best self and healing and doing that reflection work. So I believe it's so many things, Blake. It's not just one. Now, of course, diving into refining and perfecting a plant-based diet, it can be a huge piece of somebody's optimization of life, but it's not all of it. We need to look at it as a whole. It's just like if you're trying to grow plants in a garden, for instance, and you just want to grow flowers. You know what? That's great, but eventually the soil's going to get a little bit deplete of different nutrients, and you might need to grow other plants to fix the nitrogen in there or to make it a better, healthier ecosystem. And I believe that health and wellness and rising up it's a whole holistic approach. And I don't know if that answered your question really. I mean, I kind of veered off, but like they all go together. If we can refine our mind, we'll start to refine our body. We'll start to be more mindful of what we put into it. We will we'll have more coherence. We will be more awake with all the choices that we make. And, so whether you want to start that with clean beauty or you want to start that with a Pilates journey or with breath work or with walking outside each day or grounding and touching a tree, like start, start somewhere because it will be part of your entire awakening. Just
Yeah,
start.
that was a beautiful answer. No, I love that answer. That's a beautiful answer. I love your philosophy of the pillars, and that whether or not like we choose to acknowledge there's different aspects of our life holistically, they're there. So, you know, pick an area, start, and then it seems like for you and I both, it kind of when you're walking along the path, your journey just opens up and it starts to open your eyes to these other areas that you could work on, whether it's being surrounded by successful people and having a good social circle of people that are uplifting, or even just your physical practice and modifying your physical practice as you grow. I'm definitely not doing the same gym routine I did as a high schooler. Some of it I do, but I've incorporated a lot more different stuff that's, I think, a lot more healthy for longevity purposes. Uh, yeah, no, I love that answer. And let's dive deeper on like, what's your style of eating?
Hmm. Yeah. So since I've been plant based for 16 years, I've gone through many different phases. And I am personally at a point of my ultimate balance. And I think everybody is seeking their ultimate balance, their ultimate truth. What does their body need? And I have gone through phases like of being completely raw, and that is awesome. But for me, I have had to personally break free of compartmentalizing myself in terms of how I eat or labeling myself. I mean, I eat plants, okay? I don't even call myself a vegan because I don't want to be like an imperfect vegan, like just whatever. Like, if I buy or if my car has leather, like that sucks. It has leather, but like I have to break free from the perfection trap because that causes me stress. So, what I have found in terms of my eating pattern is that currently at age 40, I am loving what we would call the high raw. Again, I'm trying not to label myself, but it's very interesting. I think I even mentioned this to you like on an Instagram post. I've actually been eating a lot more fat than I have in many years. I mean, I went for probably 6 years on more of like the high carb, low fat, which I believe is incredibly pivotal for so many people on their plant-based journey. And I think it's very, very vital. I think it's a great concept. But for me, as my hormones change a little bit and stuff like that, I've tapped more into the fats with like walnuts and avocados and not necessarily oils. I'm still more a proponent of oil free, and I have been on most of this journey. I actually do think that oil can have a place in a healthy plant-based diet if it's consumed raw, if you're getting something super high quality. I mean, there's definitely standards that I would have for if they're consuming oil, but yeah, I'm like fruit and fat right now. It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre and it's working for me like really great digestion wise, energy wise, strength wise. So that's what's working for me. But for, maybe fast or rewind 5 years ago, I was eating more of the McDougal, like I said, like McDougal, like high starch, lots of grains, lots of potatoes, lots of sweet potatoes. But right now, that's not calling me. I'm more of the high raw. Like today, I've had mostly nuts and which is just again, it's weird for me to even say because I've been so like on the low fat, high carb train for so long. But lots of nuts. I did have some steamed spaghetti squash with my nuts and fruit. I can't remember what fruit I had, even though squash is a fruit, whatever. It's been a raw fruit. Oh, dates. I've had a ton of dates, a ton of the wet medjool dates from Seven Hot Dates. They're only available for a few weeks out of during the year. So I bought a ton of those and I've been loving them. So pretty high calorie density dates and nuts these days. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and you mentioned your age, and it's just incredible. You look easily 5 to 10 years younger than your age. And again, I'm not. I feel like I try to sound sincere on these. And yes, and I'm being totally sincere, you guys. It's like it's remarkable. And when I was at the fruit festival, that was my first experience being surrounded by so many of the people living this same lifestyle. And I was just like, man, everyone's so nice, everyone's so chill. We all genuinely care about everybody being healthy and then the health of the planet. And everyone just looks so vibrant. And I think it's awesome that your style of eating has kind of gone through those phases and you found something that works for you. And what's so crazy is, just to share with you really quick is like what I ate today is bang on what you ate. I ate bananas, oranges, steamed squash so far, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a salad later. I don't like to take labels on either. I guess the only label that I would say right now is plant based, or high raw
Yeah.
because it's like the least constricting. But I do like to follow, like you said, the salt, the oil, the additives, and follow natural hygienic principles as much as possible. Hence steamed squash, it's considered a mucusless food by Arnold Ehret. I notice it digests really, really well. And, getting a little bit into like the natural hygiene, because that's like a huge passion of mine when I discovered this 200-year-old science that just kind of got swept
Yeah.
under the rug. And it's like,
No.
it's
Yeah.
the truth. Oh my gosh, it was right beneath my face this whole entire time.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a debate within the natural hygiene realm around herbs. Some
Yeah.
of the guys and gals,
Yeah.
they would say it's stimulating, it's enervating, just do water only fasting, and the herbs don't heal you. It's the God force energy healing you, and you have to get out of the way and just let that happen, with a fast, or dry fast, water fast, juice fast, whatever. Or the other side of the argument is like, we're not in a natural environment anymore. We have G irradiating us. We have pollutions. We have chemicals like you were talking about with the clean beauty. So we need to fight fire with fire a little bit.
Yeah.
Take something that's going to, punch my adrenal glands into action, or that's going to smack my thyroid into action, or
Right.
whatever, or really flush out my liver. And so, like, the urban pharmacy representative, I have the best person here to talk about this subject. So what's your take like on herbs? What herbs do you use? And what's your own practice with that?
That's been a journey too. I mean, just I've been fully raw, by the way, not right now, but like I've been fully raw for like 2 to 3 years and I've done all the things. I mean, you know what? I've done all the things except water only fasting, only because I am somebody that seeks pleasure and I don't really want to not eat. I freaking love food. Even one day, I need to give myself a 1 day fast. It's fine. I will eventually when I feel called. But like, I feel like I've done so much. I've gone through all of that. There's so many different camps. There's the Ayurvedic. There's the natural hygiene. There's the cacao is poisonous. There's the fiber only. Don't ever juice. Like, don't juice because that's a free sugar. Oh my gosh, there's so much that you could be polarized by in this, even just in this plant-based community. Don't add salt, add salt. Salt is vital. Our soil is deplete. Like, my word, what do we do? I think that finding your ultimate truth is the most important thing. And I think that intuition is quite strong if people allow it to come through them. So sitting with your body at your current state and with your nervous system is like so important. But I am a big believer in herbs and I've gone through a lot of, I mean, just like cilantro. I mean, I freaking love cilantro. I think it's delicious, right? not necessarily just to pull heavy metals out, which it naturally does. I mean, plants in general can pull out all the things. It's the fiber that makes them so magical. But I do believe that for people can be very, very helpful. I mean, I have my basic herbalism certification. It's something that I want to journey in with, later in life, but I don't personally take any currently on purpose, like as a capsule form or anything like that, like ground up. I've gone through periods where I've taken ashwagandha and I've done, other adaptogens like maca and using the moringa leaves. And I used to actually sell adaptogenic nut butters at the farmer's market, mixed lucuma with raw almond butter. And I made all these different ones. And, I didn't really feel that great with them. I didn't really need them, I find. I think that the more that you get into your own intuition, your body will seek what it needs. But I mean, herbs them in and of themselves, whether they're roots or they're shoots or they're stems, there's so many that I feel like people can get really overwhelmed. And also they can lean in on them too much to try to heal, where if they don't have the basics refined, then it's just a lot of extra expensive pee and they might not feel very well. So I think that if you can get the basics down, the foundation perfected, then you want to add in extra bells and whistles if you feel like you need them, then go for it. That's my personal opinion.
No, I love that. It is, the herbs are so powerful, guys. Especially like you gave the example of cilantro, to just use that as a simple example. Go get some cilantro from the store and then go get some cilantro like that you grew yourself in your own garden, and then just pick it and then just chew on it. You feel more than just the flavor of cilantro. You feel some sort of hydration, you feel some sort of activation, you feel the energy of the plant. And I think that that's what a lot of the herbalists they say. And even when you look into what's that science where they use just a little bit of the herb, I'm blanking on it right now.
Like, what do you mean? Like microdosing? No.
I'll think of it and I'll put it below for you guys, or if you guys know what I'm talking about, just put it below. But it's like where they just take the essence of the plant, and it's because they think that it's not like the plant matter and the chlorophyll and whatever, I guess, flavones and all sorts of vitamins and minerals that are in there. It's more so like the essence or the energetic
Oh, yeah.
quality of these herbs that seem to work on more than just our physical tissues, but they're also going to work on our energy. And some herbs you mentioned like Ayurveda, and of course you have traditional Chinese medicine. They talk about things in a different way. They're like these herbs are warming, or these herbs are cooling, or
Really?
these herbs help for this disposition. If you're more of a fiery person, take this, or if you're more of like a
Depending
slow
on your
moving
dose load.
person, then take. Yeah, exactly. It's just so fascinating. And just if it's something that's been used and proven for thousands of years, it's just kind of hard to argue against that. And I think that God or the universe, or however you want to look at that, Mother Earth, has given us these tools and given us dominion over these plants. But like you said, don't get lost in the sauce. Don't just be taking this pill and that pill because you heard somebody say it, and then you just have really expensive pee, because
Yeah.
it's so true. But there's a couple greatest hits of herbs, and you guys can easily find those. Like I would probably say like nettle or dandelion or burdock or milk thistle, licorice, and just do your research. But I just love how you were pointing at using your intuition about it. And I wanted to get more into that because I think I'm sensing that, you and I are both kind of like spiritual people. And I feel like, I've been a bit of a business person throughout my life as well. I mean, as a personal trainer, like you have to manage your book of business and you have to, work with your clients and schedule and stuff like that. And I think it's kind of rare to have like someone who's left brain with the business ownership and serial entrepreneur, but also like a super spiritual person on the same token. So I think that that's really cool that you offer both of those perspectives. So I really like to hear your perspective on how this lifestyle has affected your spirituality. And yeah, I'm so curious.
Oh my gosh. Well, my spiritual journey is ever evolving. I believe wholeheartedly that eating this way and also having that mind body connection has helped me open my heart to understanding that there is a much bigger plan for me, even though I can't see it. And it's also taught me to be more surrendered to just life in general. I believe that the closer we get to eating God's food, the food that is put here for us, the more aligned we get with our greater purpose, the more energy we have to be able to put toward that. I mean, gosh, spirituality is so loaded, but I believe that as with each passing year, I'm just getting more aligned with my truth. And yes, it does take education and it does take awareness. I mention a lot about following my intuition, but personally I want to purpose driven life. I really, really, really want to live out my purpose because I believe that's my assignment. And if I'm not living out my purpose, what's the point? And I don't believe that I can live my purpose out well if I'm not completely taking care of myself to the best of my ability with the knowledge that I have, the personal experience that I have. So it's just really deeply intertwined. The actions that I take and the way that I live get me closer to my purpose, which to me is as deeply spiritual as it can be. Like it's just the deepest spirituality, like finding your purpose. I've tried to help my clients with that a lot. And a lot of people don't have any idea what their purpose is. And I believe that that's because there's stagnation, there's blur, there's blockages, there's trauma. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. There's a lot of things at play. But I definitely I believe that God has a plan for me and I will be in the most alignment if I take care of myself to the best of my ability so I can live out my purpose, which is to serve others and to help them on their healing journey as well, to help them with their awakening and to become their best version.
Stacey, that was some real talk right there. That was beautifully said. I just wow. I love how you were talking about the spirituality piece and you brought up purpose and you said something really profound. And I don't think that I've ever heard this before from anybody. And you said that a lot of people have trouble finding their purpose or knowing what their purpose is. And I've also found that even with myself a little bit, it was blurry and it's gotten more sharp as I've put the work in and now I'm pretty sharp on what that is. I found the raw foods and stuff like that, natural hygiene. Thank God, praise God. It's been a long road to get to this point, but I've valued and enjoyed this entire development process. But you said something that just it kind of was like where you were like, people don't have an idea of what their purpose is, or they feel like they don't know what their purpose is because maybe they haven't cleaned up their physical body. Maybe they have some blockages, not only physically with the food that they're eating, or maybe they need to do a cleanse and detox, but also like traumas or emotional
Yeah.
work. And what you're speaking to is that mind body connection, and there's nothing really more spiritual than understanding the energetic side of life and how that can either positively or maybe negatively affect our external expression or our physical expression in life. And so let's talk a little bit more about that, about the physical side of things. And, one of I guess my philosophies or whatever is like, if somebody's stuck with their thoughts or emotions, just work on the body. And then that might unstick them there. If somebody's stuck with their body, maybe give their body like a little bit of a rest and kind of do some shadow work on their thoughts and their feelings. And then maybe that will kind of like get them into the next phase of their physical journey. So yeah, like what would you recommend somebody like if I was a new client coming to you and I don't know what my purpose is, like how would you coach me through that?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I believe without sounding too woo woo, which I can definitely go to that side, I can be woo woo if you want, but like, I believe that God created everything as energy. Okay. Everything is energy, and there's always a force going against and giving to. So like, it's this, everything's energy. Okay. Just keep it as simple as that. And like I was saying with holistic living, there's many different pillars that I believe are part of that. But so for each person, it's going to be individualized in terms of how in the world are they going to find their purpose? Well, let's address all of the different things that you might be stuck with. And oh, I mean, okay, so let's talk through the pillars. Well, I won't make it too drawn out, but success environment is one of the pillars. Like, are you in an environment that's supportive? Like, do you have a spouse or are you or friends that are not in alignment with who you want to become? Okay. If that's the case, that's a huge roadblock for you, right? And this is I've had some hard conversations with my clients and they have had some major wake up calls with this and completely changed their lives. I mean, their jobs, like some people have even quit their jobs because they realize, oh my God, like every single Monday through Friday, I'm surrounding myself with these people that are literally completely out of alignment with who I want to become. And they can never, nobody, I believe, people cannot live a fully purpose driven life. By the way, shout out to Rick Warren and my grandma, because my grandma told me about this book called Purpose Driven Life. Rick Warren is a pastor. He's like a Christian pastor at this huge mega, or was a Christian pastor, this huge mega church called Saddleback Church in Texas or California. I don't know, somewhere. It's like, just what is like, it's helping you find your purpose. Okay. So anyway, that like sparked all of this for me. But if your environment is not supportive, that's a huge, huge roadblock. So clean that up. Okay. And then belief system. Do you even believe that you can find your purpose? Do you even believe that you can become better? Do you believe that you can heal? Because if your mind is not right there, you're never gonna, you're not gonna move forward. So we address the mind body connection. Let's talk about breath work. For me, I have experienced trauma. Who has not? Everybody has. If people are ready to face the fact that they've experienced trauma in their life and want to release it, let's look into breath work. That's been a huge piece for me to be able to open up and expand and heal. I actually just went to an intense breath work session last Thursday night. In, out, in, out. I freaking cried. I passed out, which sounds crazy. I'm going personally through a lot. Not passed out, sorry. I fell asleep. Okay. Everybody else was seated and I woke up. I had tears on my face. I was sleeping. I basically went into, I needed to rest. And so I went through this deep, deep breath work and I released some trauma that I needed to let go of. And it was huge and a lot of energy, but that's, that's huge. So mind body connection, whether that's Pilates, breath work, meditation, tap into it. Okay. This is going to be one of the ways that you're going to be able to find your purpose, because if your energy is blocked, nothing is going to flow through you. You got to flow. You got to get the flow going, right? Same with the food. I mean, raw, I believe, is optimal. I got to be real. But, can we even optimize raw even more? Can we lean in on sprouts? Holy crap. Like how high vibe are sprouts? I mean, they're like the beginning of the plant. Like it's like, boom, you've unlocked the seed. The energy in a sprout is crazy. And this is just totally like, we're going back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit to the herbs that I was talking about. Like, I want to be clear on the fact that you brought this up too, Blake. Like, we are living in today's age. Okay. We have the natural hygienic principles, but let's also listen to the nutritional science that has come out, because nutritional science is pretty awesome. And we have unlocked a lot of knowledge when it comes to onions and like broccoli sprouts. I mean, these things are cancer fighting. These are cancer fighting foods that I believe are really powerful, and I do have a place. So that was just something I wanted to touch on. And also herbs and teas and like how beneficial that can be. Like it gets things flowing. Mucilaginous herbs like licorice root. Okay. Anyway, so the mind body connection, the nourishment with the food. We're optimizing the food. We need to look at all of these principles, all of these facets, all of these pillars to help find our purpose. And I know it seems way out there, but it's not. If we can, we have to become our best version and take it from all angles so that we have a light bulb moment. Oh my God, I'm here to help people. Typically, Blake, it's the purpose comes from the pain of going through the transformation, to do the hard work, to have the discipline of not always seeking the pleasure loop. And there is a pleasure loop. There is a motivational triad of human behavior that is seeking pleasure, that is avoiding pain, and taking the path of least resistance so we can conserve energy and we don't die. That is exactly what we behave on, those three things. And if we're willing to go through the pain so that we can have more pleasure and we're not taking the path of least resistance, we're actually doing the work, we will find our purpose. Because as we elevate with our own life, we can teach others of how we're doing that. And I believe that that will unveil a lot of people's purpose. It's literally taking them through the journey that you've already been on.
Wow. You guys rewind that, watch that segment again. That is hardcore. I love the triad. I love the pillars, and I love that you're like a holistic life coach perspective of, if you're having issues in one area, let's look at not only that area, but let's look at all areas. We can talk about the food all we want, and that's huge. But maybe for some people, it would be more impactful to change their environment and who they spend their time with. Or maybe for some people, they don't exercise at all and they have no mind body connection. And a breathwork class like what you experience would be super profound for them to just get some of that stagnant energy flowing and moving. Because, like you said, like everything is energetic. There's an energetic blueprint that the physical world is then, I guess, created from. If you take away our physical bodies, or if you chop my hand off, or, God forbid something happens to my physical body, I'm not going to be like, let's say this part of my arm is 10% of my body. I'm not going to be 10% less Blake. I'm still going to
Right.
be the same personality, the same, because the real you behind the body and behind the mind, even in the thoughts and the monkey mind chatter, is what I would consider your spirit or your soul or the real you or your higher self, however you want to say that. And so I think that the more that you remove obstructions to experiencing that, that true self of who you are, then you're going to get in touch with what you were put here to do. Because as you said, God does have a plan, and I fully believe that too. It's not like I believe that, it's just like from my experience I've observed that there has always been a plan, and it's remarkable. You kind of don't need to have these belief systems, because you do the work and the universe just responds in kind. And there was I've noticed that, watching back some of my episodes, there's kind of like a common theme of that after embarking upon this lifestyle, cleaning up my life and everything, that I feel more like the kid Blake, who was kind of like
Yes.
a bookworm and a book nerd. And I'm just like fully owning that about myself. I'm like,
Love it.
hey, I'm reading these 200-year-old natural hygiene books on a Friday night, and I'm not going to the bar or anything, like, and I'm totally cool with that. And I noticed you just posted a really cool reel about doing inner
Inner
child work,
child. Yeah.
and you were like dancing and
And
flowing and stuff. Like, let's just talk about that for a second. Like, could that be a really therapeutic method for somebody as well? How could that help somebody?
yeah, I mean, oh my gosh. Okay, so I used to be like a dancer cheerleader, and albeit I was a party animal, like at the same time, totally getting wasted, smoking tons of cigarettes, and just okay. But I was not the whole time, but like in my later years of being a dancer cheerleader, um, that's what I did. But I've always been I was always bubbly as a kid. I got in trouble for my conduct, like in school, like I talked too much, and I like thought, well, actually, I went to a festival this just a few weeks ago, actually. It was like a month ago, called the Thrive Alive Vegan Festival. And it was so fun. And my friend Erin and my friend Serena put it on together. And at the at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, I've started in the last few years, I've started doing a little bit more dancing. And it's like uncomfortable and I feel awkward, but I'm like 40 years old and I'm like, where has this been for the last 20 years of my life? Because this brings me a ton of freaking joy. And even though it's like, again, it might feel like awkward and you might feel stupid, who cares? Because dancing brings out your inner child. It creates a ton of release of serotonin and dopamine, those happy hormones. And it is also so good for your lymphatic system. Most people's lymphatic systems are stagnant. We need to be bouncing up and down. We need to be moving. This is a great way to exercise without even having to go to a class or go to the gym or lift weights. You're exerting energy. You're getting in your body. It's good for your limbic system. I mean, it's good for somatic health. This releases a ton of stress. And I encourage people to tap into their inner child so much more than like like you were saying, Blake, like go back to who you really are. Who are you? And own it and have fun with it. Were you at the Texas Fruit Festival dance? Did you do the dancing?
Yes, that was my first time doing that, the ecstatic dance. It's exactly how you
You could,
said.
yeah, you could call it ecstatic dance or whatever, but it's literally just turning music on and just dancing. Like whatever. It's like you wanna, and at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, my friend Lexi, which by the way, you should go to in California in August. It's gonna be so fun. But she teaches like a different way of ecstatic dance where you like stomp or you like turn around like a ballerina. She gives you different prompts and you just go for it. And everybody's kind of giggling and like it brings up so much joy. And we all look so stupid, but it's so fun. It's like, where in the world did we start to tell ourselves that we can't do things like this? It's just societal norms putting us into these like robot boxes and like, no, we're made to move. We're made to dance. It's tribal. It's beautiful. It's human connection. It's just joy. So I am leaning into it fully and I believe other people should too. And just kind of going back to the inner child work, like whether that's dancing for you or not, like maybe it's doing art. Maybe it is, reading books. Like go back to who you are. You will find so much more joy in your life if you do.
100%. And I love the dancing piece too, and just getting back to who you really were as a child. You were this bubbly kid. You got in trouble because you were talking a lot and stuff like that. And I was reminiscing back to my childhood as well. And I was kind of the same way too, and it's like it's so cool. And here we are doing a podcast, you know what I mean? It's like, and I found a subject to where I can just really nerd out and read books on it and then kind of talk about it with people like yourself and it just build my own knowledge. And I'm still young in my journey as far as like the natural hygiene and the plant-based, but like yourself, my journey got started with fitness and stuff like that. And that's been ongoing for over 20 years. So I'm kind of integrating that experience into this realm and at the same time as doing this child work, and it's amazing. And you talked about how these ecstatic dance celebrations. The one at the Texas Fruit Festival was my first one, and it was so cool. Not just the ecstatic dance, like that was awesome, but like just that whole experience of the festival. And you also mentioned Thrive Alive Vegan Festival, you mentioned Woodstock Festival, and of course, I'm looking at going to all of those this upcoming year. But I know that as we're wrapping up here, that you actually have a couple festivals as well that are in your repertoire that you're kind of the MC for. Like, tell us about what you have on the schedule coming up here. I'm so interested to know and hopefully go.
Well, definitely on the books and the website will be soon released is the Vital Reset Retreat. I am doing that in tandem with my friend, Dr. Steph Peacock. She's amazing. And then Bradley Lavelle, Bradley James, you probably met him at the Texas Fruit Festival. So we are creating the Vital Reset, and this is going to be an amazing retreat. The first one's going to be in Texas, in Marble Falls, Texas, in November 2026. For all of you listeners, if you are when you're listening to this, make sure that you grab a ticket because it's very limited spots. Okay, and this is going to be an intimate, transformative retreat. This is not just for the everyday. It's actually not a festival. It's a retreat. So what we are doing is we're calling in people like you, Blake, people who are on the journey already, but people that want to level up. people that want to refine, people that are ready to do the work because it is work. If we want to become our best version, we have to do the work. And the awesome thing is that we're going to do it together. And for instance, one of the days is only going to be, it's going to be an optional day to do this, but it will only be juice and we're not going to be consuming solid foods if you are into that. You don't have to, but that is something that we'll all be doing together. We're also going to be doing nervous system reset. I'll probably be teaching Pilates a little bit too if people are open to it. Yoga, we're going to be hiking, we're going to be intention setting. We're going to be learning about nutritional science as well. Steph brings a lot of experience with that. And we're creating a collective, essentially, where again, we're calling in the people that are already on the path. They're able bodied, but they want more. They want more out of their life. And that is what the Vital Reset is going to be all about. So that is on the books for November 2026 for sure. And please stay tuned with me on social media for other upcoming events. I definitely am planning a lot for 2026. So it's going to be really, really good. I'm very, very excited.
Stacey, that's incredible. I'm definitely interested in seeing what that is all about. And you guys, for more information on what Stacey offers and that upcoming festival in November 2026, it just sounds amazing. If you're feeling called for something like that, you know, just from working with Stacey at the Texas Fruit Festival, she is the type of energy that you want to have in your success circle, kind of like one of her pillars she was talking about. You know, she's a perfect person for that. So check her out at the Urban Pharmacy. That's urban with an H, pharmacy with an F, on both Instagram and YouTube. Stacey, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. That was amazing convo. And you guys, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. And until next time, we will talk soon. Peace.